Okay, I'm going to be starting my Form C outside pre-trip inspection. I'm going to be starting with the sides, making sure I have all of my reflector tape, making sure it's not worn, torn, or missing. Coming down, I have my marker lights. I'm making sure my lenses are not cracked or broken or missing, properly secured with its full set of nuts and bolts. They should be the color of amber, and I'll be checking for any burnt out bulbs. Also, my reflectors are not cracked, broken, or missing. Coming down, I'm going to be checking the frame of my chassis from the top to bottom, making sure it's nice and straight. It's not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. I'm also going to be checking the inside, making sure I have all of my cross beams, making sure they're not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded, and none are missing. Coming onto my landing gear, making sure it's tight and secure with its full set of nuts and bolts. It's not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. My landing gear leg, making sure it's nice and straight, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded, and well lubricated. My release handle, it's in its proper lock position, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Tight and secure with its full set of nuts and bolts. I'm making sure my boot is tight and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. My support arms, making sure that not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. My support brace, making sure it's nice and straight, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Tight and secure with this full set of nuts and bolts. Coming down, this is a sliding chassis, so I'm making sure my locking pin it's in the lock position. It's not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. I'm also making sure my release arm is in its proper lock position, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Tight and secure with this proper set of nuts and bolts. Going back to the inside, I'm going to be checking my air lines. My red is for emergency, my blue is for service, and I also have my electric cable. I'm going to be checking my air lines for any cuts, cracks, or bulges. I'm making sure it's tight and secure at each end, and I'll be listening for any air leaks. I'll be checking my electric cable, making sure it's tight and secure at each end, and I'll be checking for any bare wires showing that could cause a short. Going down, if I follow those air lines, it leads me to my brake chamber. My brake chamber is tight and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts. It's not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded, and I'll be listening for any air leaks. The air lines leading to my brake chamber are tight and secure at each end. If you have any cuts, cracks, or bulges, and I'll be listening for any air leaks. Here I have a dual set brake chamber, so I'm checking both clamps, making sure they're tight and secure with the proper set of nuts and bolts, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. My push rod and slack adjuster, I'm making sure they're tight and secure. The full set of nuts and bolts and the proper cotter pins. With my brakes released, I should have no more than 2 inches of play while pulling on the slack adjuster. If I were to have more than 2 inches of play, I would get a 9/16 wrench to my adjusting bolt, do a full turn clockwise until it stops, and a quarter turn counterclockwise. If I adjust one brake chamber, I'll adjust the rest so I can brake evenly. Going on to my suspension. Here I have my spring mount, making sure it's nice and straight, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Going on to my leaf springs, making sure I have a full set, they're not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Tight and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts. Going on to my mounting pad, making sure it's in the proper position, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Tight and secure with this proper set of U-bolts. The U-bolts themselves are not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Tight and secure with the proper set of nuts. Here on the bottom I have my torque arm. This one. Making sure it's nice and straight, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Tight and secure with this full set of nuts and bolts. The torque arm is used as the weight stabilizer. Going on to my brakes. Here on the inside I have my brake drums, making sure the brake drum is not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. I'll be checking for any white powder or any black powder. White powder will indicate that the brakes overheated and a fire extinguisher was used. Black powder will indicate that there's metal to metal rubbing. I'll also be checking for any fluid leaks. If there would be any fluids leaking, that would indicate my inner axle seal has busted and needs to be replaced. Also, my brake pads should have no less than a 1/4 inch of life left. Going on to my tires. Here in the back, these are called my rears. I'll be checking the insides and outsides of my walls, making sure they're free of any cuts, cracks, or bulges. I'll be checking my thread for any nails or screws that could cause a flat. Here in the back, recaps are permitted. My thread life should be no less than 2/32 of an inch. Air pressure should be between 85 to 100 psi, unless told differently by the manufacturer. I'm going to be checking my spacer, making sure it's free of any wood, rocks, etc. Anything that could come flying out while I'm driving, or anything that could cause me a flat. Going on to my rim. I'm making sure it's not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Properly secured with its full set of lug nuts. I'm making sure my lug nuts are free of any rust or metal shavings. Any rust or metal shavings can indicate that they are loose and need to be tightened or replaced. And I'm making sure I have a full set. Here I have my hub, making sure it's tight and secure with this full set of nuts and bolts. Making sure it's not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. And I'll be checking for any leaks. Here I have my valve stem. This is where I'll be checking my air pressure. Making sure my valve stem is free of any contact with the rim. It's not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. And I'll be listening for any air leaks. Sorry, listening for any air leaks. I'll check my air pressure with my personal air gauge. Same inspection I did on my front axle, I will do on my back axle with no exception. Now to the back of my trailer, I'm going to be checking my DOT tape, my reflector tape, making sure it's not ripped or torn or missing and easily visible. Going on to my lights. Here in the back, all my lights should be red. On the outside, I have my turn signals, which are also used as my emergency four-ways. And on the inside, I have my running lights, which are also used as my brake lights. I'm making sure all my lenses are not cracked, broken, or missing, properly secured. And I'll be checking for any burnt out bulbs. And then I have my AD lights in the middle. Going on to my mud flap, making sure it's tight and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts. It's not ripped or torn, not too short, not too long.